Hey everybody, welcome back to The Turnout. I am your host, Aloy. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you always know when we put out a new video. Now, we've actually been out for a couple of weeks. We missed the last 2 episodes of Charmed. We normally are doing those live streams on that Saturday following, and that has just not happened. We had the holiday this past one, and in the time before that, just stuff came up. It was not possible for me to do that. However, let's talk about these episodes. Now, I usually like to go blow by blow and, break down the whole episode when I'm doing these, but I've decided to squish both episodes together, episodes 4 and 5, and we're going to talk about the highlights, and we're going to talk about kind of the big things that happened in the episodes, and not necessarily the blow by blow when it comes to those sorts of things. So, when we look at, say, episode 5, which is the Sisterhood of the Traveling Sandwich, the big thing that happens in this episode is that Mel is finally starting to kind of learn how to use her new time travel power.
Hell yeah!
Now, it's not time travel in the traditional sense now, because it's more like sending something through time. To start, she starts with things, and then obviously things go off the wall when she starts trying it on people. So that's part of the hijinks of this episode. But, she starts with a sandwich, she sends it back in time, then she kind of goes back in time, grabs it, and then comes back. It is an interesting way to show time travel and to utilize time travel in this this new setting, and I kind of like it. I would love to see kind of like the rules laid out so that we understand what she can't and can't do. As a matter of fact, somebody asked the showrunners on Twitter, could she use this to go back and just save Macy? And they essentially said yes, she could also go back and literally stop anything from happening. So why doesn't she do it? Because, come on. That's the problem with time travel. Are we going to have an episode where Mel goes back and kills Hitler? I wonder what happens, So, yes, there's a million things she could do with it, but not necessarily things that she is going to or even should do with it. So Mel's storyline, that is kind of the crux of Mel's storyline there, is she's really trying to figure out these time travel powers.
I got this.
She ends up sending Kayla and Mags back in the past. So let's rewind a little bit. This episode is largely too about the indoctrination and the corruption of the magical community by the Tallyman, who again is just this dude who doesn't even look like anything. Everybody keeps saying that he looks really creepy, and I don't see it. He's just like a dude with a trench coat. But we actually start off with a guy named Donnie, and we see how he kind of falls deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole when it comes to hating the Charmed Ones, and how if you just hear hate, eventually you give in to that, and then you need to take drastic measures because you've been convinced that these people are your enemy. A lot of this is kind of harping on political issues. It's really kind of putting the right wing under a magnifying glass, is what I'm noticing out of this episode. And, you have these people who are like, they're lizard people and Pizzagate. And, people end up actually believing that because there's kernels of truth in everything. If the Tallyman is sending around videos saying, the Charmed Ones killed a Lamia and then went to the spa, those 2 things technically happened. But they're not necessarily connected, but they definitely did happen. And if you splice them together, then yeah, that's definitely going to be something that's going to stick out, and it's going to get people mad. So I actually really enjoyed all of that when it came to this episode, and kind of Donnie being the bad guy, but not really. Like, he's not a terrible guy. I actually really did like this episode. So Mel's main storyline is she's kind of trying to get used to her powers, and obviously the thing with Ruby and Swan are together, which I actually really quite enjoyed that.
Oh. Wow. Okay.
When I saw them on screen, I was like, that looks like a gorgeous couple, and they looked way better together than I think Mel and Ruby did. I don't know why. They seemed like they just had really good chemistry, and I was very happy that Swan was back, first off. I mean, what are we, 5 episodes in? We hadn't seen Swan yet? Come on. So there's all that. Kayla is doing this thing where she's not using her powers because she's kind of scared to use them. She doesn't want to draw a dragon and then the dragon come to life and start destroying everything. Mags is kind of dealing with doing lots of research into the Tallyman and also trying to come to terms with her own anger issues and whatnot. And then it was really funny because then somebody said, "Hey, where's Harry?" And I'm like, yeah, he's been gone for about 2 weeks and kind of nobody noticed. I think that shows a little bit about like his usefulness to the show right now. So yeah, I actually really liked that. So they go to check in with Roxy to say like, hey, you were the last one to see Harry. What's up? And that's when Donnie comes in and he has these gloves with annihilation quartz in them that if he claps, then everybody dies. And that would be bad. So that's when Mel says, well, I'm going to send you back in time. I'll send you back before he came in, before he activated the gloves, and then we can stop him then. But she ends up sending them to the 1920s because time travel with people is different than with sandwiches. And it could be anything. It could be because they're in magical grounds. It could be because she's using it on a living being. It could be because she's using it on someone who also has magic. Like there's a lot of different factors that could go into why she sent them back to the 20s. And interesting enough, Kayla and Mags going and being sent back into the past, it was a way for them to be kind of separated from the main plot and for them to finally be able to talk to each other and kind of, you know, get to know each other and to kind of get closer. And I think they did it in a very convincing way. It wasn't kind of like, you know, oh, like they're instant friends. It was like, you could tell that they were just kind of warming up to each other, which I did like that. I did like that. So half of the episode is Roxy and Mel and the other half is Mags and Kayla. Not a ton. It's weird, right? Because then with the time travel, Roxy, she's been talking a lot about her wife, and then it turns out that Mags and Kayla end up helping her wife back in the past, and then she says, if it wasn't for these two strangers, she would have been dead, and it was just weird. That's where time travel gets a little odd, is when you start dealing with, like, well, but if we hadn't sent us back into the past, then you wouldn't be here, so it's like, we've always done this, but then did we actually do it, and then are we changing anything, or is this just the way that it was always supposed to be? It's just weird. It's wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey is what Doctor Who used to say, and I usually go with that.
More like a big ball of wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
They're able to get close enough to Donnie, and then they bring Kayla and Mel and Mags back from the past, and then she blows Nightshade on Donnie, which deactivates everything, and then they win the day, and it's awesome. And then there's a scene at the end where Roxy comes over to Mel and says, thank you, and Mel says, shouldn't you be thanking Jordan? And she goes, well, Jordan might have healed my wound that she got from Donnie, but you saved my club. And I'm like, okay, hold on. I'm going to do a little bit of yelling here about Jordan, because I feel like even in the background, even when he is being underutilized, every time that they do utilize him, he's phenomenal. So Donnie, who's trying to hold up the whole place, he's starting to spiral. And Mel can't go in and do anything. Roxy can't go in and do anything. You know who goes in and does something? Jordan goes in and does something, and he talks the guy down, and he's just like,
hey, what's your name, buddy?
This has nothing to do with you, buddy.
Oh, I just want to know your name.
he does his whole de-escalation thing. What about your wife? Let's fix that cut on your head. It's okay. Like, I'm non-threatening. It's cool. Like, that's the cool thing, right? It's like, even without his powers, even without, a real role in the show right now, because he's not anybody's boyfriend, he's not under anybody's tutelage, he's not even really hanging out with the charmed ones right now. He's just kind of around. He was playing, poker with elves earlier, So, like, that's the cool thing about Jordan, is now he's just kind of there. But every time time he is there, it's amazing because he jumps in and he goes, hey, what is your name, Donnie? Oh man, we should really, fix that. I mean, because he was the one that like went in and started de-escalating it before anybody even had a chance. So if Jordan wasn't there, Mel wouldn't have had the chance to save the club. So that's what I say. Anyway, Jordan's my man. I'm not going to harp too much on what happened back in the past. It was something with Lady C, which was Roxy's wife, where she was able to kind of learn from Lady C that, hey, don't be scared to use your gifts. Go ahead and do it. And that was like a block that she had, which I enjoyed her getting over. And actually, everybody had some really good movement in this episode. So like, Mel got to use her powers a little bit more and kind of got to know Roxy a little bit more. Kayla got over her yips when it came to art. And then Mags, got to kind of get over that hump of being able to see Kayla as, somebody who is not, their sister's sister, because obviously they've looked at the photograph, or actually this happens at the end of the episode. Now they look at the end of the episode, they get a frame where if Kayla puts her blood on it, it's going to show her bio parents, and it just shows two random people. And for me, this was a yay moment. I really, 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 really wanted to not have her parents be anybody spectacular, because I wanted her to not have any connection. I did not want her to be a secret sister or anything like that. I love the idea of her being her own thing and us slowly unraveling the mystery of what Kayla is and why she's there and why she has powers and all kinds of stuff. They're doing a phenomenal job. I've seen some of the other channels saying like this was the best episode so far of the season, and I'm not even going to disagree with that. I actually think it's very, very good. I think the one before this one was slightly better, but also at the time they hadn't gotten episode 6, which I actually liked even more. So let's move on to episode 6, because there was something that they said at the end of the last episode of episode 5, where during their debrief, scared people need someone to fear, and the Tallyman is like, drumming up all this fear, and they say like, how can they blame us? And it's just like, that's a hard question to answer, because there's actually so much reason to blame the Charmed Ones, and I've said for seasons that if you look at it from anybody but a witch's perspective, that it's terrible, and I feel like everybody's 100% correct in blaming them. At the same time, I see that from their perspective. Why should you be blaming us? Don't blame us. But they're like, hey, if we are able to stop the Tallyman, then we can silence the trolls and we can finally tell the truth. And my problem is that the trolls aren't wrong. And even though, again, Tallyman is doing, doctoring of the footage and stuff, I mean, the stuff is still happening. It is real. It's not fake news. It's not them not killing a Lamia and then going to the spa. They did those things. He's cleverly doctoring it all, but it is still happening. So episode 6 is called The Tallyman Cometh. It starts off with a really awesome kind of scene of him going like, I am not the villain. I am your wake-up call. And I'm like, ooh, the Charmed Ones aren't your saviors.
They haven't even come close to stopping me.
And it's a video that's like kind of going all around the gym space, and all of the magical creatures are watching it. And again, it's part of the whole indoctrination thing, but I think it's well executed as well. And that's the thing, again, like, I feel like they're really trying to make him creepy, but he's not that creepy to me. So, but it is also, this episode starts with them, you can see that the sisters are trying to get closer. Like Mel and Mags are trying to make a Ghanaian breakfast for Kayla, but people are believing the propaganda, so it kind of throws off their morning, but the propaganda is true. So like I said before, so they say, hey, Kayla, we need a piece of something from your adopted parents, like from when you were a baby, so that we can try and do a spell. So I thought that was cool, but they get a box that has a spider logo on it, and they put it under a protective field because they're like, it's probably going to be a bomb. And they ask Mags, they're like, hey, can you get a vision of what's maybe in here? And she's like, nope, I haven't been able to do one since Macy died. And I was like, ooh, this is interesting. And then she goes off to anger management. There's a whole side story going on with Harry and Jordan, but let's focus on the Charmed Ones for for now. So they eventually get an x-ray spell and they're able to see that, oh, there's nothing really going on in the box, so it's cool. And then there's like a riddle that says, you fail to save lives, but try not to worry. You have one more chance. That is if you hurry. I actually really like the Tallyman and his kind of riddler shtick here. I actually just watched the Batman last night, funny enough. But they open it and then there's more, and that they have to like sing into it, or it's going to sing back or whatever. The word sing comes up, so they go and they check in with Dev, the Gandharva, and they find them immediately. I don't know how. They open the box and it like hurts him, and then he's just like, y'all are crazy. Y'all are the problem. Get out of my face. I'm leaving. And I'm like, ooh, that's interesting.
Good luck saving or not saving the world.
Mags goes to her anger management and Ray is there instead. And it was funny because he's like, yeah, I'm here to intervene based on, I talked to Chuchi and I'm here to intervene for your anger management. And she's like, cool, well, just tell him I'm good and I'm going to leave. And I'm like, wait a minute, why would you be leaving? Didn't you block off this time for anger management just because it's your dad? Now you're leaving? Like, no, you still have to be there. They still have to sign a paper. Like, that was weird. That was weird to me. But he brings Trunksy, a stuffed pink elephant, for her to talk to. And I wasn't sure in the episode if they were going to like cast a spell so that she would actually be talking to the Trunksy. But it was just Ray. He was just, I'm Trunksy. Hey, Max, what's wrong? It was just really cute. They go back, they figure out the box, they turn the knobs, and then there's like a tone. Mel casts a spell, the Tongue of Babel, and then it actually brings them to basically a room. It's got 3 place settings on the table, and then there's a screen saying the show's about to start, and it seemed like it was recorded, but then they actually start talking to it, and it was weird. And then a spider bites Mel. And then they're like, well, let's go back to the command center. We got bit. And I was just like, that could have been a tracker bite. That could have been anything. Like, come on now. Kayla's working on the spider. And this was cool that she was a gearhead because she was like, oh, this is harder than a car engine, blah, blah, blah. But it was cool that they were kind of fitting in the fact that she's a gearhead. And then as soon as Maggie shows up, the thing wants to explode because it was built to explode when all 3 of them were there, which I actually really liked that. Again, this guy was, a gremlin, or he was. So, that's part of his whole shtick. So then Mags tries to get a vision on the box, but she only gets vague things. But with the power of 3, she's able to see. There's actually a memorial for the people and the creatures and all that stuff who were lost to Julian and his Aunt Viv. And I actually really like that because they're not just trying to remove everything and just forget everything that happened before. Like, that stuff is part of the history. I do like the fact too that it's taking place in the Gnome is where the hearth is hotel. I like that. And that actually too kind of throws in the idea that there are like magical places that maybe you can't see or whatever. Like, there's interesting things happening. Like, there's a whole magical hotel. Like, hey, I like that. I like that idea. So then Kayla finds Dev because Dev was going to perform there. She says, hey, the Tallyman's here, and he believes her, so he sings a note and it destroys all of the spiders and it works out.
Told you everything has a frequency.
But then they track down the Tallyman and he's just like, no, this is not how it was supposed to happen. No. And then he basically blows himself up. And I was like, wow. I was like, so that means he's not the Tallyman, which would explain why he was never necessarily all that scary to me, because he was just some dude. I was like, this is very underwhelming, but he's not. He's not the Tallyman. And that was interesting too, because I was thinking that if he was the Tallyman, he would probably be way more powerful. But also, since he's not, I think that makes him the little brother in the flashback that he had, because he's trying to live up to being a great gremlin. Maybe. I don't think we're ever going to know because now he's gone. And then we get the debrief of Sunny, who was the bartender at the Blue Camellia, who was working with Donnie in 5. And she comes in and she says, I have the hair of the youngest and I have the blood of the oldest. I only need one more piece. I don't think she's the Tallyman either. I think that they're either agents of the Tallyman or possibly the Tallyman can jump from body to body. And it's interesting just to see where this is going. I love that it's, asking more questions than it's answering. So just to go back a little bit, and we're gonna veer off the main course of the episode, is that Jordan goes to try and help Harry because Roxy comes and gets him, and it's to heal him because he apparently when he took Roxy's mushroom from the gnome forest, the forbidden gnome forest, he found a way to trade his white lighter powers for the ability to speak with the dead, and he says, I guess that makes me a necrolighter. And I was like, that's cool. That's cool. That actually means there are no more white lighters, except for Jordan, and he's only like half white lighter. So, so there are no more white lighters, and now there's one necrolighter and one half white lighter. I really, really like what they're doing with that. Donnie has been dead, and he's been trying to use his power to speak to Donnie so that he can master it, and then he'll eventually be able to speak to Macy. And I think that this is a really cool storyline for Harry to be on, and I want to see where it goes, but I love the fact that they're also not spending a ton of time on him, because we do really need to focus on the sisters and their relationship and them mastering the power of 3 and them trying to figure out where Caleb is coming from. These new writers are doing an amazing job on focusing on the right things. Like, as much as I love Jordan, I actually love him kind of being sidelined a little bit here, because he really was just too awesome and he was taking away from the charmed ones. Again, even though he's being underutilized, every time we do see him, he's awesome. He's like, hey, Harry, stop that. No, I can't. Well, then I'm going to help you and we're going to get through this together. And it's just like, yeah, I know. Jordan, I love you. But then we also find out that Ray, he was fake. He's like pretending that he had angina, but he's got a curse, and he asks Jordan to help him solve his curse. There's so much happening right now, and I think that they're doing an amazing job with the show. I really want to know your guys' thoughts on episodes 5 and 6 of Charmed. Hopefully we're going to be back next weekend, and we'll be back to live streaming on Saturdays. In the meantime, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you always know when we release new videos here on The Turnout. I've been your host, Aloy. This has been A Turnout. Thanks for showing up.